gotta tell you this, when Bo first came, Bo Bridges is a lovely, lovely man. We kind of had a different set ethic than most sets in Hollywood. And like, the crew was loud, we were loud, we were boisterous, there's, people talking everywhere, farting, laughing, belching, and that's not how a lot of sets are. And so when Bo first came, he was horrified. Because you don't get any time to prepare when you're gonna do your scenes, because people are talking and goofing around with you until they say action. Sometimes after they say action, people are still joking and goofing around. And it really threw Bo. And he would have a lot of problems like with his lines and stuff, just because I think it was, we threw him off. And when Lou came, Lou and Bo had first worked together in 1969. And so they've been very old friends, and Lou is a pretty loose guy, and he would get on Bo for flubbing lines, and we had this long walk and talk in the corridors. It was like 6 minutes or something like that. And I think Bo had almost all the dialogue. So after we'd done it about 13 times, Lou finally got on him. It was like, Bo, would you get your lines right with your honky ass so I can go to the hotel?
That was a pretty good move.
I was like, that was Lou Gossett who said that. So, and I kind of looked at Bo to see how he would take it. And then Bo broke out in laughter. And then after that, he was fine. Like after that, he just kind of went with it. But it still was unnerving. Like when we watched it, because Bo is such a nice, proper dude. When we in the last episode called Never Ending, when we're sitting at the table and they're doing the montage, and there's shots of us like busting up laughing, it's because Bo is telling the dirtiest jokes you've ever heard. And it just makes it dirtier because it's coming out of Bo Bridges' mouth. So, what was your question?
It just been how much of the evolution of Teal'c's character was your personality?
A lot of it. A lot of it. I just answered the question in 8-9 minutes, and I could have answered in 10 seconds.
First of all, I don't see any of these people are upset about that, so I think you're good. My question was any endings, like any ending to a movie or ending to Stargate, was it sad? Because a lot of actors that I've done moderation for, and a lot of actors I've talked to, they talk about the crew, the cast and the crew, but more the cast becoming a family. Is that something you experienced, and was it sad when Stargate ended?
Oh, it was horrible. The whole last week of shooting was just a wheat fest. Actually from kind of the 200th on, because while we were doing the 200th, Sci-Fi canceled us. So when we're in the midst of shooting the most celebratory episode ever, we're having a great week, in the middle of it, Sci-Fi cancels us. And we had actually signed on for, ever since season 5, when we left Showtime to move to Sci-Fi, we had signed 1-year contracts. Season 9 was the first time since the beginning that we had signed a 2-year contract. So we were all prepared to do season 11. So Sci-Fi chose that time to cancel us. But it was one of the most poignant moments of it, other than when we shot the last shot. Everybody came, the writers came down, the entire crew came, all the drivers, people who really hadn't been to set a lot, all came when we shot the final shot. And it was awful. It was lovely and awful. So I chose that time to steal the SGC flag. But no, it wasn't. And it's weird. You have these, in Hollywood, you have these intense relationships very quickly, and you have to let them go very quickly. And so when you have a relationship that lasts 10 years and then it ends, it's really a kind of a shock. Like even now, I just saw Amanda for the first time about 5 weeks ago. I hadn't seen her in 5 years, over 4 years or something. I haven't seen Shanks in 5 years. I probably went 2 years without seeing Rick. The only person I really see regularly or saw regularly was Browder, and that's because Ben Browder, but that's because our kids go to school together. But you have to, that's always the toughest thing, like when you actually are in a situation like this where you run, more than a season or more than 10 episodes or whatever, these bonds are very intense, and you just let them go. And a lot of times you just never see the people that you've loved for a long time. You never see them again. You never talk to them again, and that's just the nature of the beast. Kurt Russell, like there's some crappy award show, like the Blockbuster Awards or whatever. So no, seriously, I think it was the Blockbuster Movie Awards. But the only way they can get celebrities there is to present them with awards and ply them with liquor. So Kurt Russell was getting the Lifetime Achievement Award, and he came on stage and he was just plastered. And but he went on this long rambling speech about this man who kind of formulated his being, taught him how to be a man, taught him how to conduct himself in life, was responsible for shaping his life as a man. And he said, and I haven't seen him in 35 years. And that man was Charles Bronson, who they worked together when he was a kid. And that kind of really sums up what this business is about. You kind of, when you stop shooting, everyone kind of just goes their own ways. That's kind of how it is.
That's a good answer. Next question. Yes, ma'am. Please stand.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming. My name is Bex.
Did you have to just think about what your name was? Because you had this weird pause, like, hi, my name.
Okay. My question, this is my common question. I ask pretty much everyone. What do you sing in the shower?
Wow.
That voice, I know you gotta sing something.
Thank you, Lord, for my blessing.
That was the cleanest, dirtiest answer ever. Like, it was brilliant. Brilliant delivery. It's like it gives an image, but it's also family friendly. God bless you. You've done this a few times.
You know what I love? What always puts me in a good mood is like you remember Schoolhouse Rock?
Yeah!
I love like all the Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, then I'm off to the White House where I'll wait in the line.
Because most of them sing. Billy Boyd breaks out into this beautiful, this big Hobbit panel we had. Billy Boyd broke out into this beautiful.
You got a big Hobbit panel? Aren't they all like 4 foot tall?
It was large in number, not in size. So, I could go off to size matter jokes, but I won't.
Thank you, Lord, for my blessings.
I will never think of that song ever again, because I'll think of you singing it. So that was a good question. Any other question? Or well, next question. I'm sure there's plenty. I think you were for that guy. Go ahead, stand up.
Before that guy.
I don't know that guy. I'm sorry, man.
Hey, good morning.
Richard,
Hey, Richard.
and I always just have wondered, who is your favorite system lord?
My favorite system lord.
Wow. That's a good question.
I mean, the obvious answer, I guess, would be. Oh, goodness. Ball, because who doesn't like balls? No, it truly is. I mean, I love them all. I mean, obviously, Apophis was my dude. And, I love him. But Cliff just played ball with such panache, you know what I mean, and such swag, you know what I mean? And he loved playing ball, he really kind of brought a whole different take on it, like he wasn't like this stoic, I just love the way he kind of moved around and walked around and really commanded things, So I probably Ball was probably my favorite. Yeah.
That guy.
The Teal'c.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, good morning.
I'm that guy.
He's that guy.
Oh God, more singing. Go ahead, that guy. What's your question?
Number one, love the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm Batman.
And this is probably an inevitable question, but recently there's been news that the movies will be done again, and this time it's a trilogy. And I know the forward-looking career questions are the hardest ones, so I don't want to make this difficult. But thoughts and/or can you tell us if you've been approached?
Well, they, it's Emmerich and Devlin who are doing, who have a fairly contentious relationship with our producers, with Brad and Rob. How that's going to affect how they choose to do it. I hope we get asked to do some sort of cameo or something, but I think they really are going to try to disassociate themselves from the series. Because also it was very contentious when we even first started doing the show, and it was because they couldn't make a deal with Devlin and Emmerich to do the sequel. And I don't know all the details, but I've heard that Devlin and Emmerich had already written a trilogy for the first movie, and they had kind of, I don't know, during the negotiations with MGM, they wanted to, a month on some secluded island to write a sequel, which they'd already written, or that's just what I've been told. So MGM balked at it, and they decided to spin it into a series. So Emmerich and Devlin took their already written sequel to another company, and you've probably all seen what the actual sequel to Stargate was. It's Independence Day. Seriously, that was the sequel. So if you think about it, it's the aliens coming back for revenge for the death of Ra. That's what Independence Day is. And so MGM sure showed them. They only made $1.6 billion worldwide. MGM.
Don't worry, I don't think there's any devices in this room that gets this information out quickly to the world. I don't think there's anything in play.
Wow, I'm so happy to be back in 1995.
1980, they want your technology back. Okay. I have no idea who was next. Lady in Black.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Lady in Black.
I'm Janelle. I came to your booth yesterday with my boyfriend, Clint.
Hey, Shelly.
We love you. You're fantastic.
Oh,
So I actually have two questions for you. The first one, yesterday we talked to Claudia Christian, and she said that on their set, because when they were filming Babylon 5, it was no cell phones, everyone really had to talk to each other. Your guys' show kind of spanned both time frames when cell phones came into play. How do you think that affected your relationships on set and in performances? And then also, what was your favorite episode? Because mine was the time with one where you guys get hit golf balls and you hit the head.
We just didn't have a set where people were sitting there on their phones talking to their agents and talking to, when we had phone calls and stuff, it was when we had downtime, and that so it really didn't play any part in our set. But it was funny when I went over and did Atlantis. It's funny because Flanagan, like in the mornings, would be on his whatever tablet or whatever, like reading the Wall Street Journal, and people, it was strange to me. But it really played no part in filming at all.
Do you think that was just because you guys had already started before that was part of it, or?
Are you asking? Is it because we're older?
We're concerned about human connection, like you were able to make those connections before technology took its place.
I don't think it was something that we really thought about. It kind of just happened, and we really just enjoyed talking to each other. So I think it kind of just happened. It wasn't even something that was really thought about. And I really, I can't see it being any different even if we had started later, just because we enjoyed each other so much, And literally, we would heckle each other for anything. So if you were someone who just sat there on the phone or something, there'd be people like, throwing food at you and stuff, and stuff like that. So it probably wouldn't have flown very well on our set. And what was, I'm sorry?
Favorite episode? Mine was the time loop, when you get big and you hit in the head with the door.
That was a fun one. My favorite episode to do, or my favorite episode to watch? Okay, my favorite episode to watch was probably Heroes, because I think we had everything the show's about in that episode. I mean, it was poignant. Fraser dies. It was funny. We had the great battle scenes. So I think we really kind of encompassed everything the show was about. My favorite episode to do was probably the 200, just because truly we had people that were on set that hadn't been on set in 10 years. We had wardrobers who had never, costume designers who had never been to set, construction guys who had never been to set, people in the office who had never been to set, all came to set that week. And it was a horrible week for all the people behind the scenes, because basically we did 5 episodes in the same amount of time that they would have to prepare 1 episode. So they were going 24/7. And still there was just such an air of joy and happiness and accomplishment. We really took that week to really celebrate everything we've done. And have you guys seen the episode? The 200?
It's so funny.
My outfits in it are fabulous. I had been on the one thing constant about Stargate is the villains. What do all the villains have in common? They all have these great cod pieces. So I had been on our wardrober literally for 200 episodes to have a cod piece. And she said, why would Teal'c have a cod piece? He's wearing like BDUs, he's wearing the same thing as everyone. Why would he have a cod piece? And I said, well, because they're fabulous. So if you notice, in the 200, every vignette that we do, Teal'c has on a ridiculously large cod piece. And his cup runneth over. Too much? Too much?
That was a little
was
too
that too
much,
much?
yeah.
Too much? Okay.
No, it's good. All the little behind the scenes things. Real quick, I'm sure there are more Stargate questions, but I am interested in what's something else from your career that you cherish other than this massive project. You did other things during those 10 years. What is something else that you cherish of like that is just as good as this massive show that you were lucky to be on for so long, and another character that you connected with other than Teal'c, of course?
I've been very, very fortunate in this business. I did this little movie called Cadence, and on that movie was Martin Sheen, who kind of adopted me into the Sheen family. I'm kidding.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Do not tweet that. Christopher Judge said he was in the Sheen family.
No, and also in that same cast was F. Murray Abraham, Larry Fishburne, Michael Beach. So just stunning array of actors. And Martin truly did. He actually changed my character's name to Ramon Estevez, which is his real name. And but I got to eat lunch with him every day, and he really kind of taught me a lot about not just acting, but about life and about how to treat people and how to conduct yourself as a man. And also, I would have breakfast every day with Larry Fishburne, who's now Lawrence Fishburne. But Fish really also was instrumental in kind of molding who I am. And just as kind of a fan, probably the Dark Knight Rises, because we call it the circus, which is where everyone's trailers are. And the first day I was there, I was just walking by the trailers, and it's Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, Tom Hardy, just went on and on and on. And I just stood there and I just got really scared. And probably the coolest moment ever in my career is when Bale came to set the first time wearing the suit. It was, I literally, like, just...
Did he talk like this?
He's just such a normal, like, everyone saw that clip of him, like, ranting and raving at, but you can go to any set, and on any given day, someone will have a meltdown, So, I didn't know, what it'd be like, but he's like the coolest, funniest dude, and it was almost like until he started talking like this, he was just like a normal kind of dude, just kind of laughed and jumped action. And what do you mean, Commissioner Gordon? And then you just go right back to,
being Christian Bale.
Yeah, it was really cool. Morgan Freeman is like the coolest cat in the world. Just the way he even walks the set is cool. Like, he should walk with theme music. He was like that cool. Because like even just saying like good morning and stuff is cool, like the way he does it, he'll just be like, he's just like a cool cat, man. So yeah, that probably was like just the kind of thing that.
So even Christopher Judge has fan moments.
The funny thing, so Joseph Gordon-Levitt, we have this school fight scene, and this is how cool Bay was. We rehearsed this fight scene for 9 days because there's kind of a lot of people fighting and not a very big area. And Bale comes in, and like Bale, he's got the stunt guys and stuff who do a lot of the heavy lifting. But Bale comes in and we run through it a couple times, and he just watches the choreography. He's like, okay, got it. I was like, what? You got it? It took us 9 days to get this. How do you just look at it and you got it? But he did. It went swimmingly. But the stunt director comes to Joe and says, Joe, you got to sell the punches. So when you tell an actor, you have to sell the punches. When you say sell a punch, like the camera, let's say it's here, what you do is you miss someone by that much as long as you go deep, right? But if you don't tell them after that, sell your punches means you've got to get closer. You got to swing harder and closer to the person's face. So I knew it was coming. Very next take. And my head's on the ground, and he punches me in the eye. And my eyes start squirting blood. So our set is blocked off for blocks because they don't want people taking pictures and da-da-da. But some of the PAs who are with the police guarding the thing have walkies. So over the walkie, I guess, it went, Chris is hurt. And thankfully, the whole fan world went crazy because Chris didn't mean Chris Judge, it meant Christian Bale. So I go to the hospital and the hospital was ready to take me to surgery because they think my tear duct has been ruptured. And fortunately, it was just, I had 3 cuts on my eyeball. And, that's actually not that serious. So I go back, and now by now my eyes swollen up. And they checked my orbital bone to make sure that wasn't broke. And so I'm leaving the next day to go to Virginia to shoot a movie. And there's a knock at the door, and AD comes in and says, Mr. Nolan would like to see you. I'm like, oh, how cool. Like, he wants to, say how sorry he is and like wish me luck in my next project, and maybe he's thinking about me for Inception 2. You didn't hear that here, that there's an Inception 2. I'm like, cool. So I go to set, and Nolan comes over and he puts his arm around me. He says, so you ready to work? I look like Cyclops. And then I thought, Inception 2, Inception 2. And I said, yes sir, Mr. Nolan. So, back to work. And the same week, Anne Hathaway had done the exact same thing to a stuntman. And literally punched him in the eye, like getting to, and same thing, squirting blood, the whole deal. So that was a good week.
You heard it here first, squirting blood. Gentleman in red.
I'm Batman.
I'd like to know what your favorite color socks are.
My favorite color of socks? Who asked that?
He's asking for her. I'm not sure. Are you mute?
Of all the questions that you could have asked, you chose to have someone ask when they were called upon, what are my favorite color socks? That's the question you want to ask? Is that really the question you want to ask? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about it. Of all the questions you could ask.
Just kidding.
So she knows what kind to send you.
Okay. What would you do if you couldn't do football or acting?
Much better.
Good question.
If I couldn't do football or acting, I don't know if I have any other appreciable talents. I'm wondering how appreciable my acting talent is, so I think I just put one over on someone. If I couldn't, I would probably, gosh, I guess I'd try. I guess I'd be a writer. I guess either that or a convicted felon.
I will spin off of this and say, do you or have you tried directing? Is that something that interests you? We'll go with that route for that question.
No, because generally I don't like actors.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I look at our directors who are great, but all the garbage they had to take from us, and not even bad garbage, just that we would never get serious and like actually want to work, you know, and it would have driven me crazy. Our behavior would have driven me crazy if I was a director. And even the episodes that I wrote, I had the option of directing them. And I was like, nah. And it's kind of, you know, I've thought about it, maybe the next show, maybe I'll direct just so when I'm done acting, which will probably be after the next show, at least I'll have a career. So but no, I really had, and still really don't have any desire to work with actors. I mean, the constant coddling. I'm sorry.
So, for Teal'c, you had to alter your appearance a little bit. And I just always wondered if it ever made for any awkward situations offset when you're just grocery shopping.
Well, what do you mean alter my appearance?
Well, the eyebrows and no hair. And,
You know, yes, I had to severely alter my appearance. You know, the only thing that ever caused, when we first started the show, we used, for my tattoo, well, the Teal'c character initially was conceived very differently. Even when I first auditioned for it, I had very long hair and ended up cutting it like the day before I got a callback. But he also had long earlobes and you know the Egyptian thing, that thing. What's that called?
Chin thing?
A beard or a chin thing?
Goatee.
What's it? What?
No.
It's not a goatee. It's the Egyptian.
Look it up.
Gold thing that
Yeah, like the pharaohs, like the what's it?
Goatee thing.
it's literally just a false beard.
It's a false beard.
That's a terrible
It's
name.
a false beard.
what it's called?
That is not a false
Somebody
beard.
look this up.
A false beard is like Nicole Kidman. That's a false beard.
Do not tweet that either.
Bazinga. Another actress who will never work with me.
We are. This is getting bad. Like quickly.
What? No. Wait. Yes.
What is it?
Well, this says it's false beard.
I don't believe this.
Name, which I will not try to pronounce now, which meant great praise.
Okay, awesome. But no, thank you.
How were questions asked in the 90s at conventions?
Yeah.
About the freaking internet?
I'll get it.
How were panels even done in the 80s?
Hold on while I get a dictionary.
Somebody get a phone book.
Wait, I'm gonna run to the library.
Done in 4 hours.
But it was so he's very. But when we did the screen test, what we realized is Teal'c had these long ears, and then every Jaffa would have to have that same thing. So that was scrapped. The chin deal was scrapped, and the tattoo was initially problematic because we couldn't get one that would stay, and so we started using this stuff called prosade, which is a very common adhesive in the film business. But there are people, and me being one of them, have very severe reactions. Like Michael Dorn sued Paramount because the prosade deal screwed up his skin. And what it did for me, it burned the actual tattoo into my forehead. And
Still?
no, it's gone now.
Oh.
Which I thought was horrible till the show started airing. And I would go out to the nightclub, and that symbol would be burned in my head. And he went, "Are you that guy from Stargate?" Yes. So I completely forgot what your question was. Was that? Did I answer?
It was close-ish.
No. What was it? What was your? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It was close-ish. In the back, blue shirt. Oh no, little girl, or big girl. I don't know.
What's the most embarrassing thing to happen to you during SG1?
The most embarrassing thing that happened.
Keep it.
You don't have to answer.
Yes, you do.
If you have to answer every question.
It's either that or the socks.
Yeah.
It's either that or the sock question.
I used to. I'm just gonna say it. We love to fart on set, and but it's the truth. We used to have like fart competitions. I mean, to the point. And we took it really seriously. I mean, to the point where me included, we altered our diets so that our farts would be worse.
That's dedication.
So literally every night, I would have a bowl of Fiber One, topped by Slim Fast, topped by Benefiber. The results were explosive. So after this one particular day of greatness, we actually had to clear out the control room. We were sitting in the control room. We had to clear out the control room for half an hour to ventilate it. Oh, it was so fragrantly beautiful. And MGM loves to write memos. We get the dumbest memos about stuff. They would come every day. So we have it's called, every set has a production report. And it lists what goes on during the day of production. Like first shot, 7:08. Second shot, blah, blah, blah. But it lists everything that goes on. So on the production report that's sent to MGM, it literally said 40-minute production delay, airing out control room, Christopher Judge farting.
I'm sure they love that.
We get a memo the next day. And so everyone gets the memos. They put it in the trailers in their offices or whatever. We get this memo from MGM saying that bodily functions that cause timely production delays will no longer be tolerated. Which only meant that the crew couldn't participate anymore, but me and Rick still could. The poor crew, I would just be, anytime we were in an enclosed space, it was horrible. And so how they got me back, we were doing this episode, I forgot which episode it was, but it was one where I'm in the hospital during, I'm strapped down, and Braytag Tony Amendola has my face, he's saying, choose. What episode was that?
Oh, you're all fired as fans.
So not super fans.
Well, you don't even know.
I'm gonna stop my story then. So anyway, so I'm strapped down to the thing, and it's lunch, and the room, this fake hospital room, just stinks. So that the crew is now wearing, you know those masks that you wear like when the air is toxic? They're all wearing these masks. And I think it's the funniest thing ever. So we break for lunch, they leave me strapped. So I just sit or lay in my own stench for an hour. And you think that taught me? No! So that's probably one. Or anytime we had to be in the astronaut suit, in the space suits, it was horrible because when we had to put the thing down, we had these air hoses that really keep the thing from the face shield from fogging up. So if you're gaseous, all that is just blowing right back up your nose. They would have to periodically come open the face shield because they would still fog up me, and so all this thing would come out. So I would go up to the camera and pretend like I was asking a question, and I was like, such a ridiculous set. The cameraman would get me back. And this is all true, this is not made up, not one word of it. There is a site on the internet, I've never been on it, kids, please don't ever go on it, called Rate My Poo. And it's just people's pictures of their poos.
Yeah.
So I would be doing my close-ups, and a lot of times you have to look right to the side of the mat box. So I go up to get my eyeliner, and they downloaded and put pictures in my eyeline of people's poo. And that was common. So you just never knew what would be, or people would be standing behind the cameras with they would pick up these big pictures of people's poos and be holding them up while I was doing my close-ups. It was just we just had so much fun.
Sadly, we're running low on time.
Absolutely not. Let's keep going. Oh, yeah. So, very much just like everywhere else in the country, everyone's has to, all school districts are trying, all counties, all blah, blah, are making cuts and everything. And in my daughter's school district, they made the genius decision to cut the art program. So, we haven't let that happen. So, my wife actually just volunteers and teaches art class for nothing. And now we kind of have to supply all the materials ourselves. So what I've been doing is auctioning off scripts to help to
That's awesome.
get them materials and stuff.
We need to spend our time on that then, and we might be able to take one or two more questions. And so do you want to do that now, or is okay.
Or let's wait till okay. Let's take some more questions.
White.
Hi, I'm Debbie.
Hi,
I've
Debbie.
seen you a couple of times now, autographed and selfie. Who would you like to work with in future career, both male and female?
I would love. I guess male-wise, I would want to. I guess technically I've worked with Morgan Freeman, but I've never had any scenes with Morgan Freeman. I would love to work with Morgan Freeman on a younger. This kid, Benedict Cumberbatch. This kid is the future. Seriously, this kid is the next kind of dude. I think he's unbelievable, really unbelievable. Female-wise, probably Sofia Vergara. I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding. She's such those talents. All of a sudden, I'm Shatner. I would love to work with Meryl Streep. I would love to work with Meryl Streep. But yeah, I mean, but the list is huge, of who. I would just like to keep working.
Okay, guy in blue.
How was your time with Richard Dean Anderson?
Awesome. How was my time with Richard Dean Anderson? Is that the question? Yeah. It was awesome. Rick is literally a big 13-year-old. He really is one of the most irreverent, brilliant, funny guys. I mean, a lot of Jack O'Neill is Rick. That's kind of how he is. We did a panel at DragonCon last year, and there's quite a few of us on the panel. And someone said, if you had, a question to me was, if you had to ask Richard Dean Anderson a question, what would it be? And I thought, my question to Rick would be, name everyone that's sitting next to you. And he literally went, I can name. Who are you guys? That's kind of Rick. He called Tony Amendola Carmen for years. He thought Tony and Carmen were the same person. That's kind of Rick, but he really is. I mean, I love that cat. I really enjoy every second I spend with him. So.
Okay, I would love to keep going, but there's another panel. Lady in green?
Oh, there is another panel. In this room?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Real quick.
I sort of deals with Richard Dean Anderson. When you did the MacGyver episode, did you ever think you would wind up doing a series with him for like 10 years?
Oh.
Did you have like the same relationship from the MacGyver show as you did with the Stargate?
No, absolutely not. I mean, Rick is a dude where he's a pretty private guy, so he really doesn't really talk to the guest stars a lot. And so on MacGyver, I was a guest star. But that is where I gotta cut this down, I guess. That is kind of where our fart relationship began.
Oh, here we go, back to the party.
It comes full circle. Literally, so I played this arrogant high school football player, and MacGyver was a substitute teacher, and he was teaching about Archimedes, the whole thing with, give me a lever, I will move the world, right? So in the scene, Rick, to teach my young and arrogant character a lesson, he flips me over his shoulder. So I had worked this out with Rick's stunt double, and so I hadn't met Rick yet. So in those days, when the lead guy, especially if you are the lead guy, came on the set, the first AD would announce you, ladies and gentlemen, now on the stage is Richard Dean Anderson, people clap, blah, blah, blah. Talk about narcissistic. So we get that, and I'm scared. This is one of my first jobs, if not my first job. And I'm literally trembling when Rick hasn't looked up at all, not once. And actually, Rick looks up, and here's what I get. That began my relationship with Richard Dean.
And we will end on that.
You want to do the option thing?
All right.
I'll model.
Okay, let's have you stand. Go over there and model. Woo! $5. $5, $5, $10, $10, $15, $15, $25, 25, I don't know, 30. Okay, she's really going for it. What?
Credit card, or does it have to be cash?
I have no idea.
Figure it out.
$40.
Figure it out.
$40. $50. $50. Oh, geez. $60. $75. $80. All right, 90.
And of course, I'll sign it. All that stuff.
Okay, going for 80 once, 80 twice. So, okay, so we deal with them. All right, we got another script. I have to do this quickly. We got another panel. $40. Okay, right there. $50. $50. $75. 75. $85. 85. 85 going once. 85 going twice. So, thank you for coming, Christopher True!